the fire that changed everything. The night was quiet in the small human colony on planet Cerilon. Mark Evans, a single father, was finishing his late shift at the maintenance yard. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the old photo of his daughter, Lily, smiling in his wallet. Life wasn't easy since his wife died years ago, but Lily was his reason to keep going. As he walked home through the misty streets, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. A bright orange glow lit up the horizon. Fire without thinking. Mark dropped his bag and ran toward the flames. Smoke filled the air. People were shouting in alien tongues, and the sound of alarms cut through the night. The building on fire was a luxury tower, the kind only the rich and powerful aliens lived in. The guards were panicking. Unable to open the security doors due to system failure, Mark shouted, "Anyone trapped inside?" But they didn't answer. He could see the silhouette of someone through the cracked glass. Small, moving weakly without waiting for permission. He grabbed a steel rod, smashed the glass and pushed his way in. Heat scorched his skin. His lungs screamed for air, but he kept moving. Inside the hallway, fire danced along the walls. Then he saw her. A small alien girl with pale silver skin and bright green eyes, coughing and crying near a collapsed beam. Mark rushed to her, lifted the burning debris, and pulled her free. Her breathing was weak, her clothes half burnt. He wrapped his jacket around her and whispered, "You're gonna be okay, kid." But the ceiling above them groaned dangerously. With the girl in his arms, he sprinted toward the exit. A flaming beam crashed behind him, sparks flying like angry fireflies. When he finally reached the street, the crowd gasped. An alien woman screamed, "That's her!" That's CEO Nira Valen's daughter. Mark barely understood who that was, but he laid the child gently on the ground as medics rushed in. He collapsed beside her, coughing hard, his arms covered in burns before he blacked out. He felt a small hand grab his fingers. The alien girl's weak grip. A silent thank you. He woke up hours later in a hospital bed, his arms bandaged and his throat dry. The nurse, a gentle half-cyborg woman, said softly, "You're lucky to be alive, Mr. Evans. The girl's safe thanks to you." Mark smiled faintly. "Good. That's what matters." But outside his door stood two figures in black suits, alien security agents. They scanned him with cold eyes. Speaking in their language, then the taller one said, "You are summoned by CEO Nira Valen." Immediately, Mark blinked, confused. "Summoned? I'm just a mechanic." They didn't answer, only gestured for him to follow, still weak. He limped into a sleek black hovercar, its doors closing silently behind him. The city skyline stretched before them, shining towers, floating ads, and traffic streams like rivers of light. Mark had never seen the upper levels of Cerilon. Humans usually stayed near the lower districts. He felt out of place, like a speck of dust in a palace. The car landed on a massive platform outside Valen Tower. Guards stood in perfect lines. Drones floated above, scanning everything. Inside, the air smelled of crystal and ozone. Walls made of shimmering glass that seemed alive. At the center of the hall stood Nira Valen herself, tall, elegant, her skin like liquid silver, her eyes burning with intelligence and sadness. Mark lowered his head awkwardly. "Ma'am, I didn't mean to cause trouble. She raised her hand gently. "You saved my daughter, Mr. Evans." Her voice was calm but carried power. For that, no word is enough. Then she turned slightly. The little girl he rescued walked in, her arm in a sling, her green eyes glowing as she smiled shyly at him. "Thank you, mister," she said softly. Mark smiled. "I'm just glad you're okay." But something in her eyes, a strange shimmer, made him pause. It was as if she could see more than just his face, like she could read his thoughts, his pain, his lonely heart. Nira stepped closer. "My daughter, Lyra, is special," she said carefully. "She remembers those who touch her life." Mark didn't understand, but he nodded. "I only did what anyone would," he murmured. Nira smiled faintly. "Not everyone would. Mr. Evans." She handed him a silver card, smooth, glowing faintly. "Consider this a token of gratitude." Mark looked at it, confused. "What is it?" She replied, "A key to possibilities you cannot imagine." Before he could ask, the guards opened the doors, signaling the meeting was over. As he walked away, the little girl's voice echoed softly behind him. "We'll see you soon, hero." That night, Mark sat by his daughter's bedside back home, holding the silver card. He didn't know it yet, But that act of kindness, saving one alien child, would soon make him the most talked about human in the entire galaxy. And the galaxy had ways of repaying debts, sometimes in ways no human could ever predict. The gift from the stars. Mark woke up the next morning with a strange hum echoing in his small apartment. The silver card he brought from the alien CEO's tower was glowing faintly on the table. It pulsed like a heartbeat, spreading soft light across the room. Lily, his daughter, stared at it with wide eyes. "Dad, it's alive," she whispered. Mark laughed nervously. "It's just some alien tech, sweetie." But deep down he felt uneasy. He reached out to touch it, and the card suddenly lifted from the table, hovering in mid-air. It projected a glowing image, the face of Nira Valen herself. "Mr. Evans," her holographic voice said, calm and clear. "I wish to see you again." Before Mark could react, the image faded, leaving behind a line of coordinates. He sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. "Guess I don't have much of a choice." Later that day, he left Lily with their neighbor and took a shuttle to the upper district. When he arrived at the coordinates, he found not a building, but a starport. Huge ships gleamed under the twin suns. Security drones scanned his ID and immediately opened the gate. Inside, he saw Nira again, dressed in a dark uniform with the emblem of the Galactic Trade Council. Beside her stood Lyra, the little alien girl he saved. Smiling warmly, Nira spoke. "Mark Evans, because of your courage, my daughter lives, and because of that, humanity's reputation across the stars has changed." Mark frowned slightly. "Changed? I'm just one man," Nira shook her head. "Sometimes one act speaks louder than 1,000 speeches." She turned to a small console and pressed a button. The air shimmered, and a holographic screen appeared showing galactic news headlines. "Human worker saves alien heir. Bravery on Ceylon sparks alliance debate. Human kindness inspires peace talks." Mark stared in disbelief. "This is everywhere?" Nira smiled softly. "Everywhere," Lyra giggled. "You're famous now, mister." Mark rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "I didn't ask for that." Nira stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly. "I know," she said, "and that's exactly why you deserve what's coming." She handed him a small black sphere, no bigger than his palm. "This is a Valen core, a living energy crystal," she explained. "It responds only to souls that act with pure intent." Mark blinked. "What does it do?" "It gives back what you give to the universe," she said. "Kindness and power out." Before he could say anything more, the sphere floated into his hands and dissolved into light. Merging with his skin, Mark gasped, feeling warmth spread through his veins. Symbols appeared briefly on his arm, glowing like starlight before fading away. What did you do to me?" he stammered. Nira smiled calmly. "Nothing harmful. You're connected now, to the Galactic Core Network," Lyra added cheerfully. "It means the stars can hear you," Mark laughed nervously. "The stars can hear me?" He didn't believe it, not until his wrist communicator began to buzz with messages. Not just from humans, but from alien worlds, thanking him, praising him, inviting him. He couldn't understand how they even knew his name. That night, back home, he sat on the balcony, watching the distant lights of passing ships. Lily came to him. "Dad, everyone at school was talking about you," she said proudly. Mark smiled tiredly. "Yeah? What were they saying?" "That you're a hero," she replied, hugging him. He hugged her back, feeling warmth, not just from her, but from something deeper, from the energy now flowing inside him. But the peace didn't last long across the galaxy. Not everyone was happy about a human becoming a symbol of hope. In a dark warship orbiting a red star, a shadowy figure watched the same news broadcast. His voice was cold and filled with hate. "A human. The galaxy repays him?" He turned to his soldiers. "Find him. Bring me the man who shamed our cause. On Ceylon." Mark had no idea his simple act of kindness had sparked more than peace. It had awakened enemies older than Earth itself. While the galaxy began to repay him with gifts and respect, others planned to make him pay in blood. As he looked up at the stars that night, a single meteor crossed the sky, glowing blue. Lily pointed at it. "Make a wish, Dad," he smiled. "I already did." But deep inside, the Valen core inside him pulsed brighter, as if it knew something was coming. And far above, in the cold void of space, something ancient had begun to move, something that didn't believe in mercy, something that would test what it truly meant to be human. The man the stars, Cho's days passed, and the galaxy could not stop talking about the human who saved an alien child. Mark Evans had become a symbol of unity, though he never asked for it. News channels replayed his rescue footage, artists painted his face beside alien heroes. Even the Galactic Council discussed his act as proof that humanity was worth trusting again. But fame came with strange changes. Everywhere Mark went, things reacted to him. Lights flickered softly when he walked by. Small machines repaired themselves at his touch. Once when Lily tripped at home, he instinctively reached out, and a soft glow surrounded her. Healing the scrape instantly, he froze, staring at his hands. What did I just do? Lily giggled. You did magic, Daddy. But it wasn't magic. It was the Valen core inside him, and it was growing stronger. That night, the silver sky above Saralon trembled with storms of light. Mark stood on the balcony, watching streaks of energy dance across the clouds. Suddenly, his communicator rang. A secure call from Nira Valen. Mark, her voice said urgently, whatever you do, stay inside tonight. Before he could ask why, the line went dead. He looked up again and saw ships, hundreds of them entering Saralon's orbit. They weren't friendly. Their hulls were black, marked with red symbols of the Krell Dominion, a race known for hating peace and hating humans most of all. Explosions echoed across the city as defense systems activated. Mark grabbed Lily and hid her under the emergency shelter. His building shook violently. Alarms screamed everywhere. Then in the chaos, the door burst open, and an armored alien soldier stepped inside. Mark Evans, the creature growled. You will come with us. Mark's eyes widened. I don't even know who you are. The soldier raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the Valen core reacted. A wave of invisible energy burst from Mark, throwing the alien across the room. Walls cracked, sparks flew. The air shimmered with golden light. Mark stared in disbelief, his heart racing. Lily peeked out. Daddy, are you okay? He looked at his hands, glowing faintly. I think the stars just saved us. Outside, chaos filled the streets. Civilian shuttles fled while defense drones fought invading ships. Mark knew he couldn't stay there. He picked up Lily and ran into the night, guided only by the strange pulse he felt in his chest. As he reached the outskirts of the city, a bright beam of light appeared in the sky, a transport ship descending. The side door opened and a familiar voice called out, Mr. Evans, this way. It was Lyra, the alien girl he had saved, standing beside her mother Nira, both surrounded by guards. Mark rushed aboard as explosions rumbled behind them. Inside the ship, Nira looked grim. The Krell Dominion has declared you a target. Mark was shocked. Me? Why? I'm just a mechanic. Nira shook her head slowly. Not anymore. Mark, you carry the Valen core, something the Krells have been hunting for centuries. Mark felt his stomach twist. Why give it to me then? Nira's expression softened. Because you were pure when you acted, and the core chooses purity over power, Lyra added quietly. It means you're special, mister. Mark sighed. I just wanted to save a little girl, not start a war. The ship trembled as enemy fire struck its shields. Nira ordered, take us to orbit. Engines roared, stars blurred, and soon they escaped the atmosphere through the window. Mark saw Saralon burning below, a sight that broke his heart. In orbit, Nira turned to him. There's something you need to understand, Mark. The Valen core doesn't just protect and it connects. It links to the ancient network of energy that holds the galaxy together. Whoever controls it can influence life itself. Mark looked at his glowing hands. And it's inside me now, she nodded. Yes, and the galaxy knows it. He looked out at the stars, millions of them. Shining like eyes watching him, he whispered softly, Then I have to protect it. Nira smiled faintly. You sound like someone who already understands what it means to be a guardian. But before she could say more, the ship's alarms went off again. A massive warship appeared on their scanners. The Krell flagship. Oblivion's Fang. Its weapons locked onto their location. Nira's pilot shouted, We can't outrun it. Mark clenched his fists. Feeling the core inside him surge with light, he stepped forward. Let me try something. The others stared as he walked to the viewing window, closed his eyes and raised his hands. The stars outside began to pulse. As if answering his call, a wave of pure white energy erupted from the ship, spreading like ripples across space. For a moment, the Krell flagship flickered, its weapons failing, its power systems crashing. Mark fell to his knees. Exhausted, gasping for breath, Nira stared in awe. You just disabled a warship with a thought. He shook his head weakly. I don't know how I did that, Lyra smiled softly. The stars helped you, remember? Mark laughed breathlessly. Yeah, I guess they did. But deep in the shadows of space, the Krell commander smiled cruelly. This human has power, he hissed. Then we shall take his daughter. The daughter of the Guardian silence filled the command deck after the explosion faded. Stars glittered outside like broken glass scattered across a dark sea. Mark sat slumped against the wall, his chest rising and falling fast. The Valen core inside him had saved them again. But each time it grew stronger and stranger. Nira Valen studied him with concern. Your body isn't built to channel this much energy, she said softly. Mark wiped sweat from his forehead. Then why give it to me? She hesitated, her silver eyes glowing faintly. Because the core chooses, not us. Lyra held Lily's hand tightly, whispering, he's special, like the old heroes. But far away, inside the massive Krell flagship, their commander, General Korth, was furious. His claws scraped across the metal table, sparks flying. A human mechanic destroyed my flagship's power grid? He roared. Then we will crush his spirit. We will take what he loves most. He turned to his soldiers. Find the girl, the human's daughter. The Krell soldiers nodded and vanished into dark corridors, their ships breaking away like hunting wolves. Back aboard Nira's vessel, alarms blared again. Her AI assistant spoke quickly. Multiple warp signatures approaching. Mark stood, his voice tense. They're coming for me. Nira shook her head. No, they're coming for the core. The ship trembled as enemy vessels emerged from hyperspace. Beams of red energy lanced across the void, tearing through the shields. Lily screamed and clung to her father's arm. He looked down at her terrified face. And something inside him broke. He shouted, Nira! Get my daughter out of here. Nira protested. You can't face them alone. Mark's eyes glowed faintly, golden light shining through his veins. Maybe not alone, he said quietly, but not powerless. The core inside him responded to his rage. The lights dimmed, the air vibrated, and suddenly the ship's systems synced with his heartbeat. Panels glowed, engines hummed, the entire vessel became an extension of his will. Lyra gasped. He's merging with the ship. Outside. The Krell fighters surrounded them like vultures. Mark's eyes turned fully gold and he raised his hand. Energy surged through the hull. The guns fired in perfect unison, guided not by machines but by instinct. Every shot found its mark. Every blast was precise, powerful, unstoppable. But the Krell commander smiled as his sensors detected something below the human ship. A stealth drop pod detached silently from the main fleet, heading toward the planet, where they had left their escape pods earlier. Inside it, a Krell assassin whispered, Target, the child. While Mark fought bravely in space, the real danger was already falling toward Lily's hiding place inside the chaos of battle. Nira's AI suddenly interrupted. Warning. Secondary breach detected on planetary surface. Nira turned sharply. They're going for the girl. Mark froze. Every heartbeat echoing in his ears, he whispered, Lily, and then shouted, Take control of the ship. I'm going after her. Nira tried to stop him. Mark, if you leave now, the core may overload. He didn't listen, his body already surrounded by golden light. He jumped into the teleport pod, shouting, A father doesn't wait when his child is in danger. A burst of light swallowed him. Moments later, he appeared on the planet's surface. In a burning forest under twin moons, flames danced around him as smoke rose into the alien sky. He ran, faster than any human should, guided by the pulse of the core. He found the escape shelter half buried in ash. Inside, Lily hid behind a fallen tree, crying quietly. And standing above her was the Krell assassin, tall, armored, his blade glowing red. Step aside, human, the creature hissed. She carries your weakness. Mark's voice was cold now. She carries my reason. The assassin swung his blade. But Mark caught it with his bare hands. The core flared. Melting the weapon instantly, the ground shook, lightning crackled, and the sky itself seemed to react. Golden storms spiraled around them as the Valen core unleashed its true power. Mark's voice echoed through the forest, calm and terrible. You wanted the core. Come take it. The Krell lunged again, but Mark's energy burst outward like a wave, throwing the creature into the flames. With one last scream, the assassin vanished in light. When silence returned, Lily ran to her father and hugged him tightly. He fell to his knees, holding her close. Trembling, she whispered, "You came for me." He smiled weakly. "Always, sweetheart." But as the light faded, Mark noticed the core's glow had dimmed, its energy fading from his body. He could barely stand, his strength draining fast. Then above the forest, Neera's ship descended. Lyra's voice echoed through the speaker. "We found you, hang on." As the ramp opened, Neera ran to them, her face filled with relief and fear. "Mark, the core is unstable and it's burning itself out." He looked down at Lily sleeping in his arms, peaceful despite the chaos. "I don't care," he said quietly, "as long as she's safe." Neera stared at him, then whispered, "You humans, your hearts defy logic." Mark smiled faintly. "Maybe that's our superpower." And as they lifted off into the starry sky, the golden storm followed behind them. The galaxy watched in silence, one because somewhere, deep within that human's heart, a new legend had begun to rise. The secret of the Valen core. The stars were calm again. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. Inside Neera Valen's ship, the hum of engines mixed with the steady rhythm of Mark's heartbeat. He lay on a medbed, pale and weak, the golden light from his veins fading slowly. Lily sat beside him, holding his hand tight, whispering, "Don't leave me, Dad." Neera watched from across the room. Her expression unreadable. Lyra stood near the console, looking worried. "Mother?" "His energy pattern keeps changing," she said softly. Neera nodded. "The core inside him is rewriting itself, but into what?" Lyra asked. Neera didn't answer. Because the truth frightened even her. Hours later, the ship drifted near an abandoned moon station. It was a forgotten outpost from the old galactic wars, silent and dark. They stopped there to rest and run diagnostics on the core. While the crew worked, Mark woke up slowly, his eyes glowing faint gold again. "Where are we?" he asked weakly. Neera replied, "Somewhere safe. For now." He smiled faintly. "Safe sounds good." But his mind was already filled with strange whispers. Like faint voices from the stars, he sat up, looking through the viewport at the glowing nebula beyond. The whispers grew louder, forming words in a language he shouldn't understand. Yet somehow he did. The voice said, "Guardian of light." "The seed awakens." Mark froze. His heart racing, he whispered, "Who are you?" The voice replied gently, "The memory of your kind." And suddenly, visions flashed in his mind. Ancient humans standing beside aliens, building cities among the stars long before Earth's recorded history. He saw humans as explorers, not primitives, walking worlds that no longer existed. And in the center of every world burned the same golden core. It pulsed with life, just like the one now inside him. Then the vision faded, leaving him trembling. Neera noticed his shock. "You saw something, didn't you?" Mark nodded slowly. "The core. It's human." Her eyes widened. "Impossible. The Valen cores were forged by the first ones, before humans ever reached space." Mark shook his head. "No, Neera, the first ones were us." Silence filled the room. Lyra whispered, "That means humanity once ruled the stars." Neera exhaled slowly. "And then forgot?" Mark clenched his fists. "Maybe the core chose me to remember." Before anyone could speak further, the ship's alarm blared again. The AI's voice echoed. "Incoming transmission, encrypted, origin unknown," Neera ordered. "Put it through." The hologram flickered, revealing an elderly alien monk in white robes. His voice was calm but heavy with sorrow. "The prophecy unfolds. The Guardian rises again." Mark frowned. "Guardian?" The monk nodded. "The Valen core is the heart of the galaxy. It awakens only in times of great imbalance, and those who carry it are destined to restore harmony, or destroy everything." Neera's eyes darkened. "You mean the core can also end life?" The monk nodded gravely. "If its bearer's heart is corrupted, it will turn light into fire." Mark swallowed hard. "So if I lose control, it will burn the stars themselves," the monk finished quietly. The transmission cut off, leaving only the hum of the engines and Lily's quiet breathing. Mark looked down at his hands. Trembling slightly, he whispered, "I don't want this. I never asked to be anyone's guardian." Lily touched his arm softly. "Maybe they didn't choose you, Dad. Maybe you chose to help first." Her words struck deep. For a moment, all his fear turned into quiet strength. He smiled faintly. "You always know what to say." Neera turned away, hiding her own emotion. But far away, General Korth watched through his warship's command feed. He had intercepted the monk's transmission. A cruel smile spread across his face. So the core's true nature is power itself. He turned to his engineers. Then we shall tear it from his body and make it ours. Meanwhile, on the silent moon base, the core inside Mark pulsed again. Brighter and steadier this time. He could feel millions of tiny lights across the galaxy connecting to him. People. Machines, worlds, he whispered softly. They're watching, Nira asked. Who? He smiled faintly. Everyone who still believes there's hope. As the ship prepared to leave the moon, the stars outside shifted into strange patterns. Constellations rearranged themselves into the shape of a burning hand reaching outward. Lyra gasped. What's happening? Nira's eyes widened. It's a signal. The ancient call of the Guardians. Mark stared at it. His pulse sinking with the glow, he whispered, The galaxy is waking up. And somewhere in that infinite darkness, an ancient being opened its eyes for the first time in 1,000 years. It smiled and said softly, The last human remembers. The betrayal among the stars. The ship sailed through the void like a wounded bird, its engines glowing faint blue. Inside, Mark sat alone near the viewport, watching the endless sea of stars drift past. The core inside him felt heavier now, like a burden more than a gift. Every heartbeat carried echoes of the ancient humans he had seen in his visions. Their courage, their fall, their silence. Lily slept nearby, her small hand clutching his burned fingers. He smiled faintly, whispering, I'll keep you safe, no matter what. But he didn't know that somewhere deep inside the ship, danger was already awake in the control room. Nira stood over a holographic screen, her face calm, but her eyes filled with something unspoken. Lyra watched her mother quietly. You're hiding something, she said softly. Nira didn't deny it. The council has ordered me to bring Mark to them, Lyra gasped. They want to protect him, right? Nira shook her head slowly. They want to extract the core. No matter the cost, Lyra stepped back, her voice breaking. But he saved me, he saved us, Nira whispered. And that's why it hurts at the same time. General Korth's fleet lurked beyond the nebula, waiting like a shadow. His spies had already reached the council long before Nira's message. The Krell had promised peace in exchange for the core. And the council, afraid of war, listened. Now the galaxy was ready to betray the man it had just crowned a hero. Mark entered the control deck. Sensing the tension, what's wrong? He asked. Nira turned, forcing a calm smile. Just recalibrating navigation. But Lyra couldn't hold her tears. Don't lie to him, Mother. Mark frowned. Lie about what? Silence filled the deck until Nira sighed deeply. The council wants you brought in. They think you're too dangerous, Mark laughed bitterly. After everything I did for them, Nira's voice cracked. They fear what they don't understand. Before they could say more, the ship's alarm screamed again. Dozens of red dots appeared on the radar. Closing in fast, Korth's fleet had arrived, cutting off every escape path. Nira cursed under her breath. How did they find us? Mark's voice hardened. Because someone told them. The AI confirmed his fear. Encrypted signal traced to Valen transmission network. Mark turned to Nira slowly, his face pale. You told them. She looked down, unable to meet his eyes. I tried to save you by surrendering. I thought they would spare your child. He stared at her in silence, then said quietly, You don't bargain with monsters. Lily woke up as the ship shook violently. She ran to her father. Dad, what's happening? He hugged her close, whispering, Just another storm. Baby. Then he looked at Nira one last time. If this is how it ends, then let me end it my way. The Valen core inside him began to glow again. Stronger than ever before, golden light filled the corridors. Humming like music, Lyra covered her eyes. It's reacting to his anger. But Nira felt something different. Guilt deep and heavy, she whispered. Forgive me. Outside, the Krell ships formed a circle. Their cannons charging, Mark closed his eyes, hearing the whispers of the ancient humans again. Guardian, remember who you are. He took a deep breath, lifted his daughter into Nira's arms and said softly, Take her and run. Nira shook her head. You'll die. Mark smiled sadly. Maybe. But they'll never touch her. He walked to the airlock. His body already surrounded by light, Lyra cried out, Wait! You don't have to do this alone. He turned back once, his eyes glowing gold. No human ever really fights alone. The doors opened, and space itself seemed to hold its breath. Mark stepped out into the void, floating, glowing, alive. The core inside him expanded, forming a golden field that spread across the stars. The Krell fleet fired, hundreds of energy blasts cutting through the dark. Each beam hit the golden barrier and vanished like sparks in water. Then Mark lifted his hand and the core answered. A wave of pure light erupted from his body. It passed through ships, through weapons, through hatred itself, and wherever it touched, violence stopped. Machines powered down, soldiers froze. Inside the command ship, Korth screamed, "What is this?" The light reached him, and for a moment he saw visions of Earth. Oceans, trees, children laughing. He dropped to his knees, whispering, "Humanity still remembers?" Back on Nira's ship, Lyra and Lily watched through the viewport as the night turned gold. Lily whispered, "That's my dad." He dropped to his knees, whispering, "Humanity still remembers?" Back on Nira's ship, Lyra and Lily watched through the viewport as the night turned gold. Lily whispered, "That's my dad." Nira closed her eyes, tears falling silently. "That's the Guardian." But as the light spread across space, the core inside Mark began to fracture. Cracks of light ran across his skin. He smiled faintly, whispering, "Guess this is the price." His voice echoed through the stars. "Protect them. Always." Then everything went silent. The Krell fleet was gone. The battle ended. Only the golden glow remained, slowly fading into the darkness. Nira held Lily close, both crying quietly. Lyra whispered, "Is he gone?" Nira shook her head, looking at the faint golden dust outside. "No, Lyra. Heroes don't die. They become part of the stars." And as the ship drifted through the calm that followed the storm, a single light shone brighter than the rest, pulsing gently. Like a heartbeat, Lily looked up at it and smiled. "He's still watching us." When the stars remembered his name weeks passed after the great battle, the galaxy was quiet again. Too quiet. For the first time in years, the Krell fleets had stopped their wars. Planets that once hated each other began to talk of peace. And across the stars, every screen, every world, whispered one name. Mark Evans. They called him the Golden Guardian. The human who stood alone between life and death and turned war into silence. His story spread faster than light, told by soldiers, merchants, and children alike, but for Lily it was not a story. It was her father. She lived aboard Nira Valen's ship now. Lyra became her closest friend, always by her side. Every night they watched the stars from the observation deck, and every night Lily pointed to one star that pulsed brighter than the rest. She would whisper, "That's him," and smile. Nira often stood behind her, hands clasped, heart heavy. She had seen many heroes rise and fall, but never one like him. A human, small and fragile by galactic standards, yet strong enough to move the heavens. Sometimes she wondered if that was what made humans dangerous. Not their weapons, but their hearts. One evening, the ship's AI reported something strange. Unusual energy signature detected near the Orion Rift, it said. Nira frowned. Coordinates? The AI replied, identical to the Valen core frequency. Lyra gasped. But that's impossible. The core died with him. Without hesitation, Nira set a course. The ship glided through the star lanes until they reached the rift, a place of swirling light and ancient silence. And there, amid the golden dust drifting like snow, something began to take shape. A sphere of light pulsed, faint but alive. Lily pressed her hands to the glass, her eyes wide. "Dad?" The light flickered, forming a shape, a face familiar and warm. It was Mark, not in flesh, but in light glowing softly like dawn. He smiled gently. "Hey, sweetheart." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You came back." He nodded. "I never left." Nira and Lyra stood frozen, awe in their eyes. Mark looked at Nira, his voice calm. "Thank you for protecting her." Nira bowed her head. "It was the least I could do after what I did." He smiled kindly. "You gave me a chance to finish what humanity started." Then he looked toward the stars beyond, his voice deep and echoing. "The galaxy forgot who we were, but not what we could be. The core was never a weapon. It was a mirror, showing every being what lies inside their soul." The golden light expanded, touching every console, every system, every heart. The AI whispered, energy levels rising, but stable. Lyra asked softly, "What are you doing?" Mark smiled, sharing it, And as the ship trembled with energy, beams of light shot across the galaxy. Every planet, every city, every child saw the same sky, golden and alive for a brief moment. Every mind heard the same whisper, "Be kind," and the stars will answer. The warlords laid down their arms. The traders shared food with strangers. Even the Krell commander knelt on his ship, whispering to the light. "We were blind," he said softly, "and a human showed us the way." Lily watched as her father's image began to fade. She cried, "Please don't go again." He smiled. "I'm not going, I'm just becoming part of everything," she sobbed. "I love you, Dad." He reached out with shimmering light, touching her face gently. "I love you too, my little star." The glow grew brighter until it filled the entire sky. Then, slowly, it spread outward, dissolving into billions of tiny sparks that drifted among the stars. Each spark found a home, in hearts, in dreams, in the quiet places between worlds. And from that day onward, when someone showed kindness, a golden light would flicker nearby centuries later. Children in alien schools would read about the human guardian, how one man's compassion stopped a war and reminded the galaxy that life was worth saving. And though his body was gone, the core lived on, not as power but as faith. Faith that even in the cold of space, warmth could still be found. As the Valen ship drifted past the Orion Rift, Lyra whispered to Lily, "He's really gone." Lily smiled through her tears. "No," she said softly. "He's everywhere now." And above them, the stars shimmered brighter than ever, each one beating with the rhythm of a man's final words. "Protect them, always."